Once again, I have risen from the depths of darkness and time. I am the hecking Lord, Lord Egregious. Subscribe, affirm, and submit yourself to the show's very rare notification. And then prepare for books ancient and damned. Bring me wine. Our first book is one of black medieval terror during the Black Death, a time of sorrow and terror and suffering unlike anything this pitiful time could ever know. Damn you to the hells I run, you know. This novel is by Christopher Beuhlman. We shall read From Between Two Fires.
This section is taken from Chapter 8, entitled Of the Feast and of the Night Tourney. An instant later, someone was shaking him. It was the man next to him, the man he had tried to strike. Sir Knight, the man was saying in a hushed voice. What? Thomas slurred. The man's mouth was so close to his face he could see the texture of his green little tongue and the dark shred of meat between his two asymmetrical teeth. You passed out. You mustn't sleep at the table. Thomas shook his head and sat up, profoundly confused. He was about to point out to his neighbor that the priest was sleeping and nobody had bothered him, but when he looked, he had saw the priest was awake and having his goblet filled again. Everyone is toasting the heroic deeds of war with England. You don't want to miss it, do you? No, he said thickly. The serving woman now filled his goblet. He saw that her nipple was out over the top of her garment, and had nearly an irresistible urge to lean forward and lick it. Across the hall, Theobald de Barentin had taken to his feet, and was looking at Thomas with his protuberant eyes. Let us not forget our friend Sir Thomas of Picardy, he said, although I cannot remember what town is in Picardy. But I believe I met you near Cambrai 10 years ago. Thomas felt his face flush, and he resisted the urge to look down. Yes, it was you, the other man continued. Your seigneur, the Comte de Gervais, a worthy man with ridiculously large mustachios, was camped near the Count of Hanau as the English drew their battle lines across from us. You are correct, Sir Knight. I was there. Let us speak of something happier. Forgive me, I must continue. It's just too good. This Thomas was not yet a knight, though he had had 30 years behind him. Still, his manners were so coarse and his birth so low, his seigneur, again, was a wise and worthy man, had not yet bestowed upon him his belt and spurs. Now, imagine. This great battle was about to start, and suddenly a noise went up from all the men on both sides. The Count of Hanau hastily knighted some dozen of his young squires and the men-at-arms, so they might fight and perhaps die in the holy state of Christian knighthood. This man's lord, looking at his brawling, over-muscled squire with white hairs coming into his beard, took pity on him and knighted him as well. Only the battle hadn't started yet. A hare had leapt between the legs of the French army, and they had been cheering at that. A hare. The battle never started. Our king decided to remove himself, and everyone went away. Only here were all these sad bastards knighted because of a hare. The Knights of the Order of the Hare, and one of their illustrious number is with us tonight. I have fought many actions since then, Thomas roared. All in our king's service, no doubt. Get yourself fucked, and your shit-nosed girl of a squire. I don't have to answer to you. Where have you fought? In a whorehouse brawl, for the white to plow your whore mother without paying. Ah, there's that rare strain of nobility that made your lord so proud to knight you, and you know perfectly well where I fought. You were just too drunk to remember. My nobility will show itself on the field, Thomas said, waving off the girl who tried to fill his cup again, and not in perfumed words to impress teenage serving girls. Theobald bowed. Ho, ho, the seigneur said. Now I would not miss the night tourney for everything. Not cunting anything. He smiled with his mouth full of black teeth. Night. The blackest hour of it. Thomas found himself in bed, but he was not sure how he got there. His head hurt miserably. A small wax candle guttered in a nook, making the shadows on the stone walls hop nauseatingly. He would have done anything for a cupful, or even a palmful of water. The figure next to him shifted. "Pier Matteo," he whispered. The figure shifted again, pulling the blanket half off itself, revealing the very pale, moly back of the Lord's daughter. Something growled from the lower half of the bed. He looked up to see a tiny dog curled between his mistress's feet, growling a warning at him. He growled back at it, then reclined. The room smelled like hot cunt and red wine vomit. He checked over his side of the bed and confirmed his suspicion that he had been the source of the latter. Fragments of the night's events came to him in watery flashes. Her open mouth coming to kiss his, her teeth graying toward the black of her father's teeth, her peregrine eyes half lit as her tongue flicked forward, her breath with its notes of garlic, fecundity, and rot. His two fingers sunk in her up to the knuckle, her wheezing beneath him and digging into his shoulders with her fat little fingers, her legs curled up so she made a football of herself. She had bitten one of his nipples so badly he wondered if he might lose it. "So this is hell," he muttered. He glanced at his borrowed robe, which was hanging from a nail near his head. He noticed the cloth of gold stars on the sage-green fabric, and saw that it looked very much like the stars in the actual night sky. He found the constellation of the Swan. Then he found its comet, with its little bloody vein, and the smaller one near it. He was afraid now. He did not want to touch the robe, so he pulled on his soiled long shirt and inner leggings. When he sat gingerly upon the bed to put his boots on, the little dog uncurled itself and stood yapping and growling at him as if it were in pain. Soon it was, because it had made the mistake of biting Thomas's arm, for which he grabbed it, absorbing 2 more little bites, and flung it against the wall. It made a great noise. He didn't look to see if it had roused the woman on the bed, because he didn't want to see one of her large green eyes fixed on him. He was grateful to hear her chortle softly, then snore. He took his sword and left. Soon he was alone again in a labyrinth of stone halls, dripping candles and sputtering torches. At last he felt cool air and went outside into the night. Other people, still dressed in the finery from the feast, were moving in the dark courtyard as well, and now some came through the same door he had just used. The woman from his bed was one of these, her headpiece perched high on her forehead again, the wicked little dog in her arms, her green dress shining. How did she get dressed so quickly? She ignored him as she moved past, then turned her head and said, "You better find your armor. And I hope you ride better than you fuck. Theobald outclasses you miserably there." Everyone around them heard and laughed. He stood there, head-achy and confused, while the crowd flowed past him. He looked where they were going and saw pennants flapping in the cool night breeze over a grounded constellation of lit lamps and torches. The tournament field. He felt a tug at his elbow and saw the boy, Simon, standing there. "The armorer wants you. Run. Get out of this place." Armorer. How long had it been since he had an armorer? In his confusion, he followed the boy to a lit tent. The 2 men had taken his armor before were within, ready to suit him in his mail and plate. It had all been scoured and shone marvelously. A tournament helm sat on the arming table. Thomas's mouth stood open. "Don't just gawk at us. Don't get too attached to it. Sir Theobald will smash it all into junk, like it as not, and you with it. He fights with a mace. He's quick as a fish from a dead man's skull." Thomas nodded at them and let them begin. He noticed his surcoat, clean now, and emblazoned with the heraldic image that had not been there before. 2 fleur-de-lis and a hair. He chuckled. Yes, this was hell. And if all there was left for him to do was fight, he would fight to frighten Lucifer. "Fuck it," he said. "Just fuck it." And that's what we say, Sir Thomas, the older armorer said. And if it won't let you fuck it, cut its throat. Hey, Jacmel, pass us down his sword. He'll want that cleaned, too.
Oh, holy moly, that is terrible. Oh, oh, pardon me, folks. You know what it's like. Curses and all. One moment. Where was I? Oh yes, I have a new book. The second novella in my Sword and Sorcery spy thriller series, Spy Counter Killer, returns in a spirited blend. This time Mina, Keeper, and Raga have found a name, Lord Vissel de Bloodridge, and this lord, along with his cult, conspires to bring doom to Hoslin as they have to many other nations the world over. Our heroes must enter the Dragon's Den. I hope you will consider picking up the sequel, and now if you excuse me... By the demons of capitalism, I am invincible!
A Spirited Blend by J. Requard. Book 2 of Spy Counter Killer. Chapter 12. Choir of Damnation. The cultists packed the green portions of the courtyard in Vishel's lavish manner, dispassionate behind their white dragon masks. Decked in their fine dresses, pretty doublets, and frilly garters, the smooth gleam of the scaled visages covering them lent a gruesome character as they parted before Mina. Pressed through the garden entrance by the banker's guard, she marched with her head up, not allowing the chill down her spine to show. The dire energy of their silence soaked her until it felt like she pressed through a thick cloud. "We knew about you," said a voice she knew, revealed in his full cruelty. We knew. The scene stole Mina's breath. 5 strong men, masked but stripped to the waists, held Valen down on a table as he writhed in their grasp. The bard kicked at the heavy hands grasping his ankles, yanked at his wrung wrists, but to no avail against the coordinated strength of his captors. He caught sight of her while thrashing. "Mina!" One of the brutes grabbed his head and forced him to look toward the starry sky above the open courtyard, which gleamed dull against the torchlight. In front of the table of their captive knelt on the patio tiles. A man in a white hooded robe held the burning light out before him. Its red end crackled with a yellow flame, smoking black. 2 jugs of oil rested beside him. "Run, Mina!" Valen shouted. "Get away! Get—" One of the worm-faced cultists smashed Valen across the jaw. The man with the torch spoke. "See it all now, don't you?" Twisting at the waist, Vissel craned back to look at Mina with his stark blue eyes, moonlight reflecting the sea. Madness played in his handsome, sinister smile. Come here. Staked to where she was on the grass, Mina refused until the cultists closed behind her. Walking forward, their hands at their sides, they did not speak or reach to force her. The eyes behind their dragon masks, creeping closer and closer, broke her resolve. Corralled down the aisle to Vissel, they stopped her within a few feet of their lord. He rose, slow and smooth from where he sat, and faced Mina. Eyes smeared in black paint to make him ghoulish, the lord's magnetism remained, but coupled with true malice. His strong, sinewed body showed beneath the thin white cloth of his robe, a rude erection pinning his perversions at her. The torch's glow cut demonic shadows over the lines of his face. Unflinching, Mina recalled the time she dueled a wag chieftain to rescue Lai Jo from the boar man's clutches, the monstrous warrior spitting and cursing in her ears. Or the one minister who thought both the empire and the emperor's possession were his to do with. She had gutted both of them, and many more men wielding power, magic, and influence. The guards had not taken her knife from her, which she held in an ice-pick grip in her left hand, blade flat against her wrist. Everyone had seen it, yet none tried to take it. Vissel's weird grin widened as she remained stoic. The tea-maker, the Jade Emperor's nightingale. Mina relaxed with an exhale as he hearkened back to her old life, settling into an eerie calm before killing. Vissel stalked toward her. "We knew," he said, breathing his wine breath on her face. She sealed her lips and continued to focus, thankful she hadn't taken too many of his odious pecks. "We knew it was you who killed Tian Lo," the Mad Lord said in a rough sing-song. "We know you have the Aurora Stone." Mina shook her hair back over her shoulders. Her heart thundered in her chest. She fought every bit of herself not to grin or scream, anything to give him the satisfaction of a reaction. "We knew you were working for him." Vissel turned and stormed upon the bard. The torch in his hand shook in fury, its oily heat drizzling up. "We've always known him." "Charmed as always," said Valen, strained by the hands pinning him to the stone. "Why banter?" Mina found her old voice, a sickened edge able to part the darkness. She smirked at the baying lord. "We all know the stakes now. Why not start the party?" The crowd shifted as her daring agitated Vissel. Taking her eyes off the glowering lord, she spied some of the cultists drawing daggers and dirks. Flaccid to the point of unimpressive now, the lord of the manor spoke in his weird garble. "We will have what is ours, Mina. We will bring forth the light of Deer. Deer, Deer, Deer," the crowd chanted in a booming monotone. "Deer, Deer, Deer." Malignancy powered those words, as real and as caustic as they were spoken. The wags had sung at her too, she recalled, which gave her the ability to swallow again. "Let's begin, then," she shouted above them, defiant. "Yes, let's begin," Vissel said in a half-whisper. From the throngs of followers to his right appeared a nude woman, guised in her white dragon mask and carrying a small bucket before her. The men pinning Valen to the table pressed down together when she approached, lifting her vessel higher until she secured a hand on its bottom. Tipping it with practiced precision, she poured the acrid-smelling oil on the bard, wetting him from chest to boots. Another girl appeared, as nude as the first, armed with another bucket. "Dear," said Vissel. "Dear," intoned the minions surrounding Mina, the words vibrating in her chest. "Dear." The second girl dumped her oil on the bard. "Dear, dear, 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 dear." "I'm going to burn him, Mina," Vissel said, the torchlight in his mad eyes. "I'm going to burn him deep." "Dear, dear, dear," the cultists shouted in chorus. "Dear, dear, dear." "I'm going to get you next," Vissel said. "I'm going to get you," and Mina sprinted for him, pumping both arms of power a skipping step before she leapt, her bent knee leading the flight. Her patella smashed his front teeth before shearing his cheek with bruising force. Her momentum sailed her past while the wounded lord dropped, spinning from the force of the blow. Snatching up the fallen torch, Mina bared both the torch and her knife as she assailed the men atop of Valen. She stabbed the first foe, turning her way, opening his neck at the artery before she rammed the point into the chest of the second enemy to her left. The bard, contending with the strength of 3 men now, tore free his arm and socked the cultist who had struck him earlier. She followed up by thrusting the torch between the 2 guarding him, scattering them. On his feet, Valen knelt beside the man Mina had stabbed in the chest, extracted her knife from his body and the one on the corpse's belt, and looked up at one of the girls who had halted midway in her trip to apply more oil. A lack of hesitation from the bard, honed as any soldier's, relieved her of the bucket as the first cultist charged them. "Mina!" he shouted as he spilled the oil on the grass. Valen leapt for the table as she threw the torch at the spot.
From the cold, dismal lands of California is a dirge of heavenly depravity, filled with winsome notes to sweet and hellish delights. This is from the sorcerer CASPRO and the wizard BALDOCASTER as they attempt to raise the Spectre. I am the Hacking Lord. I shall not submit to the light. I will beseech SUIDAKRA and become the wolf. I shall summon Faoladh. No, I shall not be defeated.
Try
triumph, my defeat. Leap forth, oh evil. Blood's creeping up my veins. So now I finally understand that my greatest enemy's myself. For I walk in darkness now, I must venture still deep into the night. Must venture still deep into the night.
Well, folks, that was a show. I'm going to go get tested. But if you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Everything hurts. Check out all the music below, and check out Between Two Fires. Fantastic book. Thank you to CASPRO and BALDOCASTER. Remember, the second book in my spy fantasy series, A Spirited Blend, is out now. And happy Halloween. Happy Samhain. 7. There's a lot of ways to say it. But a fine autumn to you all. See you next time. I'm going to go get exorcised of Eldritch demons.